Aboshted and welcome to the Chief Tony podcast, recorded here on Treaty 6 territory. The most important part of this podcast for me is to always talk about the leader. We all have that skill of being a leader within. And sometimes everything might be falling apart around you and you'll stand up, you'll pick up that part where within you want to find a way to help, you want to find a way to encourage, you want to find a way to lead the people, especially out of a struggling or challenging time. And that is something that is gifted by the Creator. And so we all have that gift within us. And this Chief Tony podcast, it's all about that, is to awaken the leader, is to utilize that leader and to encourage it so that you look after the people around you as well as the people that you love and care. My first guest today is Chief Billy Morin from Enoch, Cree Nation, a former chief of Enoch as well as a former Grand Chief of the Confederacy of Treaty 6 Chiefs. Misunga in my language means younger brother. A few years back when he became chief, I adopted him as a younger brother, and I worked with him. And at any time he needed any counsel or anyone to share with in his role as a chief, I was open to share that. And I worked with him and his family. I know him well. I know his family well. And I know him to be a strong leader in the community. And I could already tell that, we're going to have more visits like this on podcasts. I mean, we do it anyway outside of here, but the Chief Tony podcast really gave us a chance to speak and not only to just visit about our own experiences, but to really highlight, what a chief goes through in their role as a leader, as well as even counsel. And so this is an exciting visit that we had. It was good. It was informative. It was personal in some cases, and we really got a chance to look at the inside of what it's like to be a chief. And we talked on a few areas of conversation we had. One was governance, of course. As chiefs, we have a responsibility and a fiduciary duty to maintain good governance and to practice good governance, and in some cases, traditional governance, which is more of where we come from and we communicate from. And traditional governance compared to regular governance is, on one side you have policy, on the other side you have community, which of course both mean community and looking after the people. But in our traditional governance style, we look at it from how knowledge was passed on from one generation to another. And within that are protocols and customs that you have to follow. And so we had some conversation today about that. I also asked Misaga about what was it like being a chief, how did he become a chief. He shared some really good insight to that, and I know others who plan on being a leader will have some opportunities and learn from that as well. We also spoke on business, and when we think about business, we see that revenue is important in First Nation communities, and we're aligned in the same path that if we continue to create more revenue for our community, we'll come to a point where we start to generate wealth and generation wealth. And we recognize the fact that, you go back 1,000 years, our people were very wealthy. We lived with abundance. And today it's not like that. So it's a relearning and a refocus on looking at the community and utilizing the resources around. I'm really honored to have him here today, Chief Billy Morin. Aboshted Dansegya.
Okay. Aboshted Denada? Is that how you say Dene?
Eglenite.
You always used to say that when you were Grand Chief, and like all the languages of Alberta. I was actually pretty impressed by that. So I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. So welcome. This is it's going to be just a conversation. We want to visit with members in a community about being a chief, or what was it like to be a chief, and as well as being a leader. Everybody has this character of being a leader, and we all have it within us. And sometimes we're a little bit afraid to share it. But what we're hoping to achieve is that through guests like yourself, that others can see it and recognize that we're pretty much all the same. We face challenges, but if we're bold enough, we're standing even in the middle of where everything has fallen apart. And we're called to be that leader. We'll gain our strength as well as, build that character of looking after others. And that's what leadership's all about. So, Chief, I'm going to call you Chief. So a little bit of history on being Chief is that in my community, we once a chief, always a chief. So we always acknowledge our leaders as chief. And Misunga here, Misunga also means my little brother in my language. So Misunga here is a former chief, and so we're gonna call him Chief Billy throughout this whole podcast. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became chief, and what was that path like?
You're making me reflect on being the sitting chief. So thank you for that acknowledgement of chief, because, whether you're Alexis or whether you're from Enoch, Cree, or Blackfoot, or Dene, it's pretty consistent across all the communities. Like once a chief, always a chief. So we always refer to even our former chiefs as chief. For me, I always get asked that question a lot. Chief Billy Morin, what got you into politics? What got you into leadership? And there's no one straight answer, but I have a decently consistent answer, which is in the nations, I always categorize them as large family businesses, and there's a hereditary aspect to it. And ever since I was a little kid, kind of like I would say expectations were put on me, like really, really young, to do something, to be a leader in the community. So probably comes from my name too, Billy Morin. So my great-great-grandfather, Billy Morin, was chief in the 50s, and his dad was chief, and Billy Morin's son, Billy Morin III, Sammy, who you probably knew.
Yeah,
I was on council, and Sammy's son, my dad, actually was never on council and never aspired to be any leadership position. He might have ran for council once, but it really wasn't in his heart to do so. And so from a young age, just the expectation was there to do something good on behalf of just my immediate family, but also the broader family, because, again, the nation's all related. Yeah. Billy Morin had 3 wives and like 28 kids. And so the Morin family is like the biggest party in the nation.
We're not talking about this Billy Morin.
No. I got 1 wife and 4 kids. I could never live up to my grandpa's name. So, I would say that's the answer for me. Might be cheesy. And I always reflect upon that too, because I feel a little bit selfish in that like the expectation was always there. And what I tell people is like, it was pressure, but it was positive pressure growing up. And I wish that for all our young people, not necessarily be chief, but the expectation is that you can grow, you can be successful, you can be a leader from 4, from 5, from 6, from 7, from 8, from 9, from 10 to teenage years. We expect you to do something. And so, I always kind of wanted to, I was young and I wanted to be chief since I was young. I don't know the exact number, but since I knew who Billy Morin was, like he was chief, so I should probably be chief too.
Nice.
Yeah, like that's a huge reason for me.
So when you first decided to run for chief, how was that exercise? I know, like you said, all politics and all First Nations are very much similar.
Yeah.
And especially when you're just first running, other people who are there already think, no, this can't be a chief, and there's an immediate campaign against you. So how did you come through that challenge?
I have people always used to call me young, and I guess I still am young. So, it's a really good – I don't know if I'm still young. I mean, I got to be the youngest chief in Enoch's like modern-day history, if you're just counting straight age. It's probably somebody younger back in the day, depending on our governance systems, quite frankly. And when I first decided to run for chief, I ran for council first. So I was on council first at 26. And I was at Government of Alberta as an intern, and my boss, Paul Wyminga, and I just walked in his office one day and I said, I'm going to go home and run for council, and I'll probably get in. So I'm putting in my notice today. I'll see. I'm leaving after 30 days. Oh, wow. And, I just finished school. I had a government job for a couple of years, had a really stable home life. And I just thought, if I'm going to take my shot, I'm going to take my shot right now. And so took my shot and I got in. I wasn't surprised. I put some work in and got the numbers up, and my nation elected me, put me on this path today. And then when it came to chief, one of the interesting aspects about being chief is just like council, you need your supporters. You need people prominent in the community to lift you up and say, this is our person. And one of the people I went to say I was going to run for chief was my grandma, Clara.
Oh, like.
And I walked into her house. I definitely remember this. And I said, Grandma, I'm going to run for chief. And she said, no, you're not.
Oh, gee. Not the support you were looking for.
No.
Not the pat in the back you're
and,
looking for.
I'm not grandma's favorite, but sometimes my sisters, not my cousins, because she's an awesome grandma. But, I don't have much conflict with my grandma, ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And I always look back at that conversation and there's moments in your life where you just highlight, especially in your career, on, defining moments. And I don't know if this is the defining moment, it's just something I always remember. And she said, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am. And she said, no, you're not. And I'm gonna. And it was very respectful. And she said, I don't want you to because you're young. Get a few more terms under your belt. So I was already in council.
Yeah.
And, I think, my Auntie Kelly was in leadership at that time. And she's my godmother. Again, it's a big family on the Nations, as everybody knows. And Kelly probably didn't want me to. She never said it to me, but she said, if we should have a plan before you do something like this.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit more on the down low, at this point. So, there's some conflict within the family from doing it, but my heart was set on it. And she said, the other thing she said to me, and this is the one that stuck with me, is you just had a kid, and I did. I had my son Wilton, who was 1 year old. By the time I was chief, I had 2 more kids. No, when I became chief, I had 2 more kids. And she said, you don't have enough time with your family, period. And I was young, and I just had a baby, and my son was already 6 or 7, my oldest, and I didn't think too much about that. But now, now that I'm not chief anymore, it's she knew what she was talking about.
Oh,
because not being chief anymore, it's night and day on how much time you get to spend with your family.
That's right.
And it's a cliche, but it really is. So, when I first became chief, my grandma said no, and I was just, yes, I am. And at the end of the day, I know she supported me.
Sure.
Family supported me. It's really good. But, I guess even reflecting upon that instance, when you become a leader, things are never going to go just a smooth path.
Yeah,
it's up
right.
and down. And I wouldn't call that one a down, but it was a hill you had to climb, a challenge with people who mean a lot to you.
Yeah.
And you have to figure a respectful way through that. And me and my grandma did. We walked at the door, we gave a big shout out. We said we love each other. And she ended up voting for me and everything. But to say, no, you're not, that was interesting.
Yeah, to hit a wall.
Yeah.
I know that's really good that you went to your grandmother. I know a lot of communities are like that. They have this traditional protocol. Even if it's not written, it's just within who we are as a people, and you want to visit, the leaders within the family to get that blessing. And so, taking that step like that and showing that. I have a similar experience with my dad. He thought that, maybe you shouldn't run, maybe not right now, and so on. A little bit hesitant, maybe a little bit afraid for us.
Yeah,
like for sure. Yeah, right, with 100%. Your auntie. But after, when we're done and we go through that, and then they see us in that leadership role, all they do is support, love, and support, and hope that you do well. So, it's good.
We're lucky. We got unconditional love in our families, right? And that's, I was talking to my friend who's non-Indigenous the other day, and we were talking about strengths and weaknesses, and it's nothing to come off as racist to be a Black on We can get controversial here, and people are too uppity these days with saying something wrong. He was saying, what's your weakness, Billy? And he was telling me what he thinks my weaknesses are, and I was telling him what his weaknesses are, and I'm like, I have inherently more family on the nation. It's really good support system family. It's really challenging too, by the way. Yeah. But I'm like, you don't have a big family, you live in downtown Edmonton. He's awesome. I love my brother.
Yeah.
I worry for you sometimes. Call me anytime. But I would say that's the strength of the nations is unconditional love and family, not just from your mom, your dad, your sister, but from your grandmas, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, who are your sisters. So
yeah.
Family on the res is important.
That's right. It's awesome growing up on the res.
Yeah.
You're close to everybody. But like you say, there's challenges too where people are, kind of kicking the rear all the time. But
well, as much I like the rule that what's that physics rule? For every reaction, there's every action there's a reaction.
Yeah.
But even emotions are like that, right?
Yeah.
So you can put out some positivity to your family, or they can put negativity or really hard decisions, and that stuff's going to come back to you just as hard, right? If it's family, means more.
It's tough when you're a chief too to try to be close to your family, because everybody says, oh, they only look after their family, and sometimes you kind of get that all the time, and I deal with that, and then the family will see, how come all these other people are getting all the help and we get nothing? So it kind of goes back and forth too. So it's interesting like that. Yeah,
my family, I was pretty staunch about that early on. You know, like there's no benefits here. You're not getting new houses. You're not getting new jobs, new cars, and all that stuff. That happened in the past, to be straight up. It just wasn't my style. But my family knew who I was and knew how I operated. And I'm, even reflecting upon that, both sides of my family, my immediate family, my mom's family, my dad's family, they never really put pressure on me to do anything that. I was lucky that way.
I get a little bit of pressure like that, but I don't get too much. They know that it's a big responsibility. And one of the things I like to share here too, in leadership especially, is that we count on family to kind of keep our spiritual morale up. We count on family to keep our emotional, support up. And we're in that place as leaders where we have to we get to do this work to stand on behalf of the people. And when it's a tough day, it's your family that comes there to help you, replenish or rejuvenate that's our spirit so that we can continue on to working for the people. So,
yeah, I always, people might think I'm sucking on my big brother here, but I always, whenever I went into ceremony early on in my career as chief, and that was probably one of my greatest gifts as chief, because Enoch is way different than Alexis in that, we're two different languages and cultures, but being so close to the city, I always say Enoch probably had way more challenges with culture and language retention. And it would be Alexis people coming into like Mush and Bob's consistently, yourself and the drummers and Donnie and former Chief Howard. And I would be learning off you guys with Mush and Bob. And so, my family really actually didn't grow up with a whole bunch of ceremony. It was there, but it wasn't as prominent, right? And in Enoch, we were really lucky that way, that other tribes would come in, and they're still doing it. Like, we still rely upon other tribes to come in and teach us the songs, to teach us the culture, to teach us the ceremony. And that was probably that's honestly what I say is consistently is my best gift since being chief is putting that, instilling that ceremony.
Yeah, and I see you've done that not only for yourself, but I see your community growing in that since you became a chief too. So it's been prominent where you introduce in your language, you have singers, you have all those cultural supports, and a lot of your members are picking that up. So I think you've done a great job.
Yeah, like John T on council, still council. The nation, I'd say broadly speaking too, the way just society momentum's going, it's kind of, I would say the expectation is there from our young people that this is where we're going. Like it's you can call it era of reconciliation. Idle No Mores. Things have helped that, broadly speaking. Because I remember when I was a little kid in the 90s at our school, and they would try to teach us Cree. And I'm like, I don't want to learn Cree.
Oh, no.
And I look back and I'm like ashamed now. Why did I think like that? That was only like 25, 30 years ago, man.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in that classroom, and they're trying to teach us Cree. And I'm like, I don't want to learn Cree. Like I don't see any value in this. Like I was a little kid, but I didn't. And it's a complete 180 now where like little kids are like, we want to do this. We want to drum. We want to go and we want to lead. We want to get up and say some things in Cree. Like I walk in my school now and there's little kids greeting me, Tanse Ogamao, Pe Pitagwe, Pe. Like I'm like blown away. And like 25 years ago, that wasn't the case.
No, it's pretty awesome. I agree with you. Like the communities are growing. So I know we're all facing our challenges. Like we're battling with our language too. So the youngest person speak our language right now, I believe, is about 45, 50. So if the lifespan is about 80 years old, so in 30 years, the last fluent speaker, it passes at that time, our language will be done in 30 years. We'll have it documented and so on, but we're in a place right now where we can really instill that. And something great, probably like as you mentioned, a lot of the events that has happened in this last little while is people are proud of their heritage. You see more leaders standing to speak their language, to learn song, to be a part of the community, to be a part of ceremony. Those are all really important, and it was all a part at the time of treaty. And so, the preciousness of that is still with us, so we can continue to grow. And we see kids today, their spirits are stronger, where before they could even walk or talk, they're hitting a drum and they're, mocking, singing. Yeah. So it's really good where we're at right now. So awesome.
Yeah, I'm never satisfied though, like in a good way. certainly when I was chief, I can see it, I can feel it, I can touch it. But just like your community, like our most fluent speaker is probably Rocky, I'm going to say. And he probably wouldn't count himself as fluent, but he's way better than most of us. And if I'm 36, Rocky's probably like 45.
Yeah.
And same age as your guys, right? Yeah. And like the goal should be fluent speakers, womb to tomb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got some work to do.
Yeah, we used to speak our language actually before I spoke my language before I spoke English. So when I went to school in kindergarten, I had to learn English, and people would make fun of us. They would make fun of us because we didn't know how to say the words. And then the other thing that would happen is, you're acting like a non-native person.
Yeah.
They make fun of us like that when we learn how to speak well. And then by 12, we started to, we were told, you got to speak your language. We were forced, and it was spoke to in that way. And then when we tried, the people laughed at us again. And a lot of people kind of left it. They left it and they stopped speaking it. Because they didn't want to be laughed at twice, at kindergarten and now at 12. So, and then the next generation, they learned English first. So it's been tough. But anyway, next thing is, I guess I was going to ask you, what's your favorite part about being a chief? Sorry to jump around here, but that was a good conversation on on the spiritual part of it. And, maybe that's where this conversation goes is that, there's a lot of things about being a chief, but that's really an important one.
Well, I think it's getting more common in understanding and just, especially in our nations, what chief means, but even outside of our nations. And like, what does a chief even do? And it's like, I tell people they truly just run a small country.
Yeah.
Like they do. Like it's that intense. I can argue that a small country is even more intense than running a big one because you got all those systems in place. And just broadly speaking, things get out of hand in regions, but it really is running a small country. And running a small First Nation, and again, it's all family.
Yeah.
So you got to take care of the social. So you're ingrained. You're a therapist. You're a teacher.
Yeah.
You're a leader. You're a CEO. You do business. You run the housing. You do the budgets. You talk to family. You are a conflict resolution amongst family circles. You're the justice. You're the executive. You're the judicial. You're all that stuff, man. It's intense. And this is what I said. I'll refer back to it a little bit. Is the greatest gift that I got as chief is we were really embracing that like those are like the Washichu, Munyao kind of leaders of like governance systems.
Yeah.
Then you got to kind of embrace the historical kind of Nehia or Sioux aspects of being the leader of the nation, right? And there's a whole bunch of protocols that you got to learn with that stuff too.
So yeah, I mean I agree. You look at the traditional side of it is you're last. Like as the chief, it sounds like we're first, but really we're last. You got to make sure everybody's looked after, and then you're looked after. But if you look at it in the non-Indigenous community, it's like a pyramid. There's the boss at the top, and everybody follows. Similar, I guess. But in that traditional governance, you got to make sure that everybody goes through first, everybody's fed first, and then you get to have those benefits.
You taught me
it's supposed to be like that.
And like there's nuances to this, right? It's not about being chief, but you're hitting on something for me that you specifically actually talked to me. When you go to feasts and everybody gets served, and like you told me once, like who eats first, or who eats when, and I'm trying to this is a really skill testing question. Like he's trying to trick me, and it didn't hit me until you said it. Like actually everybody eats like you feed the ancestors, but everybody eats at the same time.
That's right.
And everybody's served at the same time.
Yeah.
Like chiefs don't get to go first. Not necessarily elders don't get to go first, but everybody eats at the same time. It's really collective, Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There's another thing too in that lesson was that when you're at ceremony, there's a law in there too that you don't feed yourself, and there's a reason for that, right? Because we're just automatically selfish, and we want more than what we're given. So that's why somebody else will feed you. So that's another thing I remember in that conversation.
You gotta, we're human. You gotta take care of yourself. But when I love cliches. I don't like the word cliche because I feel like I don't know how much stuff you can learn that's new. But when I tell people, it's like everything good in your life is a result of helping somebody else. Period. Full stop. And I think it's true.
Awesome. So skills. What is your leadership style, Chief?
If I had to say, I'm very hands off. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I'm trying to look for the perfect word to be politically correct, but quite frankly, I don't like micromanaging. I don't. Being chief, and again, you can compare this to any leadership position, whether it's a family position or an organization or your job leadership or a manager or something like that. Just my style is like I'm not a micromanager. We hire you to do a job. I expect you to do the job. We're gonna have bumps in the road. I understand that. But I also expect that when you have bumps in the road, the team's going to be here to support you. So, very hands off. I hire people to do stuff, and I lift them up to do the jobs that they do. I want to get out of their way because, I've witnessed it in First Nations so often. I think that's a trouble across many First Nations, result of historical Indian Act, parental style. We got to do stuff and pick stuff up for you. I think, looking back when I was chief, I always get frustrated. Like I wanted Enoch, Muskegee to be like the utopia. Like we could move really, really fast. And I can go into my Dubai analogy, which I really love Dubai. Not the social aspects, but I really love the actual nation. Of how we can actually, in my opinion, be even better than Canada. Or broadly speaking, other communities, but we're not. And so really quick, one of the frustrations I have with it's not just Enoch, but the First Nations in general is the dependency. And this is not Billy's idea. Like it's not new. I think there's just too much of the mindset in our nations, especially Enoch. I'll just hit on mine the most, that like people still have this expectation that somebody else should be doing this for me that I can do for myself.
Oh yeah.
And even in my leadership style is I expect you to get the job done. I know there's going to be challenges, but I expect you to get the job done. And I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to give you the roadmap. We're going to develop it together. But the responsibility, embrace that.
I know there's two styles of governance in our community. There's the non-Indigenous style where you try to follow policy, all those things. But there's something really important too. We like some of our elders will remind us that you're this. You're a Native person. You have a culture. You have to follow that culture. So there's a way of navigating between both of those, right? So you have to follow that culture way sometimes, and that's, people will consider that as politics or favoritism, and I'm sure every First Nation deals with that. But just to put it in light like that, I think it's important to share.
Yeah, you hit on a good point, and for me, we were still struggling with that, like as a nation. Like we're moving at light speed, trying to match rejuvenating traditional governance systems and roles of elders and women and men, blending that into everyday services and public service and budgets and stuff, right? And like we had what I loved was actually going to the elders. So like when I became chief, we instituted this consistent 1 month meeting with the elders.
Oh, nice.
And so here's one. I remember we were doing the election law. And the elders got their specific table to do engagements with us, and there's no rule around this, but it was really impactful to me, and it showed me like kind of what you're referring to on real elders and what their role is. And so the rule, we were discussing this one topic on the election with our elders, and it was should you be able to run for chief and council at the same time? Now, you can't do that in your nation, right? You got to run for one or the other. That's the way I wanted it. That's the way I wanted it, where you can just run for only one. And our oldest elder, we just said, well, what do you think? And everybody, everybody went quiet because she carries that weight.
Yeah.
And she just said, I've thought about this, and just for today, right now where we're at as a community, I think I want the best leaders possible. I know there's going to be conflict if you can run for both, but I want the best people with the most skills possible, and our nation would lift each other up, and you should be able to run for both. Wow. And that was it. We just stopped arguing. We just stopped arguing. We just said, that's it. We're going with that. Nice. And it was our oldest Cree speaking, most history, person with the most history in the nation that said that. And we just went.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, we voted some time ago, 97 actually, You have to run either or. I don't think we've asked that question, but that's a really good answer, because now you see a person might be running for chief, but they should still be in leadership, right? So they might not get in as chief, but they may get in as captain.
Well, I went with it, and this is like my internal conflict, right? My actual mind still says like only one or the other.
Yeah.
But maybe it's my heart and my respect for her, and just I know there's a bigger thing than just Billy in his mind that's going to take.
Nice. It's good. I mean, I'm like you. And I remind leaders sometimes, all the time actually, when I get a chance, is that, your opinion doesn't matter. You're elected to speak on behalf of the people. So yes, you have knowledge and so on. You share that with your elders, your council, your people, but it's not your opinion that leads. It's the opinion of the people that leads. So in that case, I see that. Good job. So Chief, Mr. Go, what's your most important skills for a leader to have?
Work ethic, probably be my number one. I think a lot of people get in leadership positions and they think things are just going to fall into place. No, you get out what you put in, man. I hate being late. I was late here for like 5 minutes, but I think we were all late a little bit. And I hated being late. And like Chief Louie, like either love him or you hate him. I like him. Yeah. I like him. I like you're here on time. You're here to get the job done. So work ethic is really huge to me. Getting up when you need to get up, and just not expecting somebody else to do something for you is really important to me. Another cliche in leadership I love is, leaders, just my personal style, because those I've seen the spectrum go back and forth on effective given any circumstance, but my personal style is that, what's the old saying? Some of our elders say you got one mouth and 2 ears.
Oh yeah.
Because you got to listen more than you talk.
And you two eyes. Yeah. You got to listen and see twice as much as you talk.
Yeah. So a really effective leader to me will not be too reactive. They got to be, the wisdom. I like that Stephen Covey quote too, where, wisdom is measured between action and reaction.
Yeah. And
that space in between when I hit you and what you're going to do about it, like I'm going to think about this. Yeah. So like the more you don't react and you're more calculated, I'm drawn to that. There's emergencies where you got to be on the ground pounding and doing what you got to do. But I really respect a leader who's calculated, strategic, has a vision, is logical, pragmatic, but also takes into account, broadly speaking, people's emotions and has that emotional IQ. So somebody who's really the complete package.
Nice. Yeah. So I think important one, strategic. Like how do you organize your team? Set priorities. How do you get them to that point where they need to be strategic? Because, like you say, a lot of times I've seen leaders where they just react to, without knowing what the next steps are going to be, and I've seen that in my own community growing up, or seen at national level of politics. But how do you set those priorities, and how do you organize your team to be more strategic?
Well, it's a little bit of a balance, right? Because I think. I completely agree with you when you say, we're a voice of the people. But the people also, I think, have this expectation to us to set the narrative, as even you say, right? Yes, we got to take in the majority of account what people say, but we got to mold it in Billy or Tony's own vision, because that's why they elected us too, is not to do everything for them, but to make these priorities communicatable, to really set the vision in terms of, we'll give you the broad speaking tools and their strokes, but you align it here and here and here. You do set the plan. So strategy, I love that, and I love that I can. What I think I did was I used to run my life in 2-year intervals. So I remember I'm doing this diploma for 2 years. Then I'm doing my degree for 2 years. Then I'm going to run for council for 2 years, and then I'm going to be chief for 2 years. Then I switched to 3 years. And I'm in a new 2-year cycle. So, I think a little bit more long term. And I hope, maybe not a lot of our members, unfortunately. Again, we can go down that rabbit hole. But thinking long term, thinking long term is really important leadership.
Nice. So that's how you set your priorities as a leader. Cool. So a little bit of politics. is that right now across the country, there's communities or different First Nations or different advisors who are talking about 10-year agreements and that are being proposed to the First Nation communities. I know mentioned that Enoch signed a 10-year agreement. Maybe you could share a little bit about that.
I looked at it as one, am I going to be in more control of our financial resources from the federal government? Checkbox, yes. Two, does it violate treaty? Well, I think this is a misconception about 10-year grant agreements where, actually all the nations, as far as I know, sign these things called contribution agreements. Get your standard money for your public services from the feds. The 10-year grant agreement is actually worded the same way, just for longer and more money. Like, why would I turn that down if it's the same wording and it says, this does not abrogate or derogate from treaty rights? And I get that, like, people are just so inherently distrusting that might not mean anything to them. But I was like, well, we have this 2-year agreement. Why don't I just sign the 10-year one and get more money? So I don't see the difference. And by the way, I don't have to report as much as this one. I don't have to jump through as much hoops. My financial staff have systems in place. And all we do is just pass out a simple audit as opposed to all this 10 reporting. And I get to set my own rules with the nation, allocate that money I have to. I don't have to do the grant reports of space. Specifically, this only has to go to this health program. I can take those dollars and move them around strategically to ECDEV or another social program. So, on the 10-year grant agreement, I have no regrets about signing it. I probably, per capita, get more than the average First Nation on that one. And it's a step in the direction to, we can argue about this word all day long, more sovereignty. And the thing I'll steal off Andre Bear real quick is, I think in leadership, too many chiefs, I'll pick on chiefs, they use treaty as a reason not to do something. And he flipped it one day and he said, it's a sharing friendship agreement. And it commands you to actually work with our treaty partners to get stuff done for your community. You can't just walk into a meeting and say every time, this violates treaty, this violates treaty, this violates treaty, and have no follow-up action just to say it. So that was always my style, which was going to work to tangibly get measurements in place with the governments to uplift my people and put ourselves in a better position and not violate treaty ever.
Cool.
Which I don't think it does.
So you had a chance to look at the contribution agreement. You put it side by side. The wording, the language is pretty much the same.
It's the same. And quite frankly, when I left Chief, it came back up to the table. And credit to the new chief. He stood up there in a band meeting recently, and he was a little confused about this because he was a new chief too. And he said, look, read both these agreements. We were signing these for the last 50 years. Here's the new one. I don't know what to tell you guys. Here it is. Here it is. Why would I throw this away when we're getting more and we have better rules and we have more certainty for this cheesy 2-year agreement that has way more rules? I don't get it.
Nice. So I think, before we close off here, I think on this subject, we need to start planning to make our own path to the Treasury. So right now, the way it works is we have the ISK now. It used to be Indian Affairs. So we have ISK now who does all of this work. And, a lot of our communities may not see that, but they do all this work. Grants come to the communities, and then, there's programs and services done. And then they take all those reports, they pile it up really nice. And then they send it back to Treasury saying, okay, we need a little bit more money, less than 2%, of course, every year.
Yeah, Jamie Brown. Anyway.
All right. So, and then that money comes. But when are we going to stop that where we utilize the Indian agent to go to, instead of them going to Treasury, that we build our communities, that we actually go to Treasury with our own proposal regarding our needs and our programs and services within the community? Not sure if you have any talk on that, but
I do.
That's kind of like a long-term vision, right?
So inherently, and you might ask me this, and I'll be blatantly partisan on this issue for your next question, which I think is coming up. So a couple things on that. One, I get what you're saying. Go straight to Treasury. Yes, I would love that, and just I love Jamie Brown, but he's treated me good, and I've had a great relationship with public services. But yeah, what would we need them for eventually long term? And I think that's the government's message too. Is we want to give you more control, the nation to nation. That means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So where I'm going with that is, Well, one really quick is like I don't really care as long as I get my fair share. Like I don't care about the government, and if there was less government, it probably means more overall to First Nations. So I'm in support of that. But like whether it went for the Treasury Board or Jamie at the local ISC region, as long as it came to me in an effective, timely manner, I was cool. So it wasn't a big deal to me. So the real solution to that, in my opinion, though, was yes, we'll always have this relationship and loosely based on treaty because the government is totally ripping us off when it comes to treaty, 100%. And that's going to be fixed overnight. But my strategy was always own source revenue.
100%.
Because, the government, and it's not just Enoch or Alexis, it's not just, and it's Edmontonians. It's never enough, right? It's never enough. And I get it. Like it's just human mindset, democracy. To be dependent on government for your funding, you're always going to be dependent. Like that's a cage I'd never wanted to be in. I gotta play in that system, but I never wanted to be there. So it was always more important for me to focus on business, building my own revenue. Our own revenue in Enoch, way more. If I had to put a number on it, 4 or 5 times more than government funding. So it was never my priority. But I'll go back to that a little bit. Like I think there was this argument that treaty-based funding agreements are from the Treasury Board. Okay, that sounds cool. I'm in support of that. I don't think a nation's actually executed that, even though they say they have. But show me the paper that says that. Anyways,
I haven't seen it.
I think I've shown my colors enough that I'm inherently conservative now. I'm not chief, and so I'm going to do a little bit of a selling feature, and it kind of makes sense to me. It's kinks got to be worked out. So the example I give is Polyev is coming out right now with this thing called First Nations Resource Charge. And the chiefs always talk about resource revenue sharing and direct access to the royalty payments from our resources. 100% they're ours. Treaty.
That's right.
Yes. Depth of the plow, all that stuff, that should be coming back to us. And it doesn't. It goes filters through government. And his thing right now is what I like about it, and I don't know if it's going to fly, but let's see. It's true resource revenue sharing. So his proposal in layman's terms is the companies pay royalties to the provincial and federal governments. And maybe those filter back to the First Nations some way, somehow. Programs or whatever these things are. I want, and it has to go through Treasury Board at both levels of government.
Yeah.
I want them to pay the nations directly, and I'll give them a tax credit from our jurisdiction if they pay you directly, and you guys get to own those resources more directly than having them filter through us. Now that has to be worked out, but I think it even takes it one step further than the money flowing to their treasury. The companies pay the nations directly as opposed to them going through their system. And I was like, that might even make some people's minds the treaty-based financial agreements, maybe even take it a step further, more positive direction. Now, kinks have to be worked out, but I was really encouraged to hear that.
Wow, that's different.
Yeah.
Look, we haven't heard that from any government, right? So look forward to seeing a little bit more about that. But I also want to share that I agree with you on the idea that, yes, we have governance, yes, we have treaty, but we also, if we continue to wait for that, we're going to wait a long time. Like some of us, 145 years for a treaty to be fulfilled, right? So if we're going to wait that long, we're really going down this slow pace of under 2% growth all the time in finance. But if we build business, we can grow faster. It's like an individual, like ourselves. If all we got was money from the government, we'd be a welfare state. But if we went out, we got a job or we created a business, we create the revenue, as you said, even created 4 times more. You're in a position right now, everybody wants to be your partner, government, or industry, or other First Nations. And I think that always has to be the vision. Like the young people, there's the communities right now, the First Nations right now are doing that, where they're building their own source revenue. And so we see that. But now, as you say that, if the government start to align themselves with that too, with revenue sharing, we could see a lot of financial growth and wealth growth in our communities. So I think that's where we need to go. Like you look at our people, we weren't poor people. You go back 1,000 years ago, we were not poor people. We were very wealthy. Like we were very, we lived like royalty. Everybody looked after the land looked after us, and we built our communities in that way. And, we governed ourselves. So it's not like we've never done this before. We're on that path.
And it's going to take a little while to get there, but I've never been discouraged or felt like one day we're never going to get there. I think we're rolling in that direction, like the snowball. and success breeds success, right? And it's contagious. So your nation, Enoch, I mean, we partnered on some things together, and this era of reconciliation is embedding First Nations more into Canadian society and culture and governance and legalities. And it's just how hard are we going to hit that ball, and how much are we going to get on base right now before some of this reconciliation becomes way too normal.
Nice. Awesome. Mr. Gut, thank you.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's next for you?
Right now, I am happily employed with our friends at Excellis, who do great work, and we got some great announcements coming out and some huge projects and some really unprecedented things. So what we do is we raise capital for that First Nation ownership to get that own source revenue, and not just your ticky-tack stuff of a small business, and more power to entrepreneurs, because I love those entrepreneurs on Nations. They're probably going to be the difference maker, not big projects, but small entrepreneurs. But we're talking $500 million. We're probably going to announce a $75 million here deal with another tribe pretty soon. The $1 billion Enbridge deals we're really interested in. So again, pushing that narrative of own source revenue. These are own source revenues, and helping nations do that takes up most of my time. And then I'm in politics, man. So everybody's current favorite premier, Daniel Smith. I still advise her, and I'm lucky. Premier's only been there for 2 or 3 months, and every leader takes time to know the file, and I'm lucky to be at the table. And she's got some work to do on the Indigenous front, and she'd admit that. And I love politics. And the other thing I'm involved with is federal politics with the Federal Conservative Party, and I do work closely with them. And so we'll see if maybe a possibility of a member of parliament one day might be my goal. But I'm not making any commitments today. But definitely, it's there in my head to see if there's an opportunity there.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Wish you well and all that, Mr. Go.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Chief Billy for joining me here in this podcast, and we look forward to hearing some of the upcoming stories. And of course, we're going to probably have you back for a few more of these visits like that. So, Mr. Go, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you.
The Chief Tony Podcast brought to you from the heart of Treaty 6 territory. A production by Chief Tony Alexis and pipikwan. The theme music is an excerpt from One More Night by Electric Religious, and the incidental music was created by Matthew Cardinal. To stay connected, visit our website at chieftony.ca. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow Chief Tony Alexis on Facebook and Instagram for the latest podcast updates.